Hi, and welcome back to the Arts and Minds Collective podcast. I'm your host, Christine Thorp, and joining me for this episode and probably the next couple ones will be Justine, my interim co-host. Justine, would you like to introduce yourself a little
Hi,
bit?
I'm Justine. I am an LPC ATRP, and I've worked with Christine. We went to the same school. I work with all sorts of people, all different ages, mostly neurodivergent clients. I myself am neurodivergent. I have ADHD and autism. So, yep.
Samesies, girl. Yeah. So we will try our best to stay on topic today. But yes, me and Justine are both odd ADHD. I think we have probably the exact same diagnosis, but I know also we have a lot of stuff that shows up the same and probably some stuff that shows up differently.
Yes.
And so, yeah, today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what is neurodivergence. And no, we actually are not all a little autistic. Uh, I think when people say oh, we're just all a little autistic, yeah, people have some traits in common with autism. Like we are all neurodiverse, but we're not all autistic. We're not all part of this neurodivergent umbrella, I guess. Yeah, we're
I was
all
just to say,
neurodiverse.
it's funny because for the longest time it was you're a little bit OCD, and now it's you're a little bit autistic.
Everybody's a little bit OCD, which, oh boy, the overlap between OCD and autism and ADHD traits is a lot. Which actually OCD is part of the neurodiverse umbrella, because it's not just autism and ADHD. It now commonly refers to people with a range of neurological differences, including autism, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It also covers dyspraxia, dyslexia, dyscalculia, all the disc. What else? There's other ones besides
Yeah.
dyspraxia, dyslexia, and dyscalculia, but all of the things that kind of end up being learning
Yeah,
difficulties.
like the
Yeah. OCD, Tourette's, also bipolar and schizophrenia, they are all under the umbrella of neurodivergence because there's actual structural brain differences. Um, so yeah, it's kind of, yeah, you're right. It's kind of funny. Everyone's like, oh, you're just like a little OCD. You just like things in particular places, which by the way, is not OCD.
no.
It's also not autism.
No. I think
No.
I think that's part of the fun part for us to be like, let's sit down, let's
Mhm.
break things down because is it
Yeah.
really have we looked at the DSM?
Right. Well, I think the difference between traits that align with being autistic, if you're like, hee hee, this is cute and quirky and I do this thing and it doesn't cause you any sort of distress or impairment, then it's not a neurodevelopmental disorder.
Right.
you know, it's not autism because the thing with being autistic, and I know you can speak to this too, Justine, it's I don't this is not fun for me. I don't
No.
enjoy having to do things a certain way or only eating certain foods or, you know, constantly needing to stim and having to constantly mask. I'm not having I don't, it takes a toll. It's not a
Right.
yeah,
It's
it's
not an
distressing.
option. It's something that you have to do. It's just it is what it is and you got to do it.
Mhm.
Otherwise you spiral.
Yeah. Always, yeah, you have distress, which then leads to impairment, right? I am actually working on a a letter for accommodations for one of my clients, and I don't think they understand what we're asking. Dude, you have to give. They were like, maybe as long as it's within policy. And it's that's not what an accommodation is. One, two, this isn't just oh, she needs this sometimes and mostly she's fine. No, she has impairment in functioning that the accommodations will help her not be as impaired in her
right?
functioning at work, right? Like, that's the whole point. But yeah, I think when you and I were like discussing like how we're going to talk about this, I think we're kind of like start with like the cultural lens of things and then kind of like start breaking things down bit by bit because cultural factors influence everything else in how it shows up, how it presents, how people function. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good
Um,
start, especially with a lot of things that
mhm.
have changed that are changing. As I know that like the way
Yes.
that people look at like the spectrum that has changed in the last few years, like the way that people
Mhm.
talk about it, especially like how we're being educated. And I mean, I don't just mean us, American people in schools, but I'm talking about like Latinos, people of color, people from other countries who get taught these things in a very different way. And I see it
Mhm.
a lot
Mhm.
in the clients that I work with, especially the Spanish
Mhm.
speakers.
Yeah. Yeah. Which like I cannot really speak to because obviously I am not Latinx. I have very much the white version of the cultural aspect of autism. Um, but even then, like, yeah, like cultural in general, just like how our culture, the American culture has grown or changed around like how autism is talked about, how it's diagnosed, like, and I still think we have like a long way to go. Yeah. But it's very different than it was even a decade ago. I mean, gosh, when I was in my undergrad, I still was learning the like it's a boys disorder, like girls almost never have it. It's always boys and like there was no spectrum. It was either Asperger's or autism. Um and Asperger's what is like basically the equivalent to what is now like level 1 autistic, just has needs support needs low support needs, high masking individuals. And there's no intellectual disability along with it. Uh, which I mean, we could get into the whole history of Asperger's.
Yeah, I rather not.
Yeah. I want to talk about how it has its origins in eugenics and Nazis.
Right? That'd be a
Like,
tantrum on its own thing, I think, if we went off that
yeah,
route.
yeah. And how, like, oh, I don't know, the rhetoric from our government in the last year and a half has just been even more eugenicsy.
Oh
um,
man.
but yeah, but yeah, I think just keeping in mind the cultural factors of like, there is a certain way we look at this, not only from a diagnosis perspective, but how these, I don't know, traits and symptoms manifest and are managed, I guess, from a cultural standpoint. And I'll be talking more about like the white Western aspect of it all, and Justine will be able to weigh in on more of the people of color, Latino, cultural, that stuff. So yeah, let's start with social difficulties, which I hate that, by the way. I hate that they call it social deficits in the DSM. Um, it's really more like social differences.
Yeah, definitely the difference is there. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's one of those things too, where language plays a big part on how things are interpreted. Even when you think
Mm-hmm.
about like assessments,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that to me, I've noticed, the few assessments that I've helped give and interpreted for, I'm like, you do realize you're asking one question, but you're seeking answers to a different question, like when you're
Uh-huh.
interpreting. So that is also like twice the work that someone with a language barrier needs to work on when helping
Yeah.
a client.
But yeah, but I also think just in general, the questions in the assessments for autism in general, like it's funny because I there's like the joke of like if you're overthinking it or like asking for more clarity, like you've already answered the question on whether or not like you're autistic because like that's actually what they're looking for. They're not actually looking for an answer
Right.
to the vague ass
Right.
question they asked.
Which is really funny to see because,
Yeah.
again, you're going to have clients who like, explain, sit with me. I
Uh-huh.
don't want to answer. And I'm just like, you're already answering. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like that was the answer I was looking for. Thank you. Just by saying that, I now
Yeah.
know. Um But yeah, the like fact that it's called social deficits and like this, what is like, I don't know. It's all fake. First of all, how the social traits that they're looking at, it's all made up. Like a group of people, the neurotypicals, as we like to call them, like decided like this is what's socially appropriate in how we do
Right.
things. And like, it's just that like autistic people don't do that. And I do know that there is varying degrees, like it is a spectrum, and there are some autistic individuals who are, quote, nonverbal, but I actually, I think the better language to use would be non-speaking
Yeah.
because they can still communicate,
Very
especially
much
if
so.
you help them learn how to communicate in a way that like accommodates their needs. Um, they can still communicate very much. Uh, they just can't talk.
Yeah. It's just,
And like, yeah, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say there's a lot of good examples. Like that's one thing that I love about social media because there are a lot of people who have children who are autistic or have autism, and they've gained ways to communicate. Like, some people are financially lucky or they have insurance that will help support get them those tablets. There's
Mm-hmm.
people who, yep,
A the AAC or AACC? I think it's
yeah.
AAC. Yeah.
And then there's people who, like, recently I've noticed, started following a mom. She's got a keyboard like tattooed on her arm. So her little boy
Oh,
comes in like on her tattoo, types out what
that's
he wants to say.
amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. Um,
So you're definitely
and
right. It's more about being able to verbalize and have like the words come out of your mouth. So I'm like,
yeah.
they have the intelligence. It's there. They can write. They can do all these things. They can do art. They can
Yeah.
express themselves. It's just the words are not coming out.
Well, and also I think like there's such a misunderstanding around like how behavior is communication. If your profoundly autistic child is having a meltdown of some sort, like that's communicating something. Right? Like just because they can't tell you like I'm upset or like I don't like this or I don't like that, like, and I get like it's extremely scary and it's frustrating and like you want to help them but you just cannot in that moment. But like they are still communicating,
Yeah.
right? It's just not the way we want them to. Um and when I say we, I mean the greater cultural societal thing as it is. Um and like which I think I want to make the distinction that like probably a lot of the autism we are going to talk about today is more of that like level 1, level 2 autism, not like level 3 profoundly autism, only because that's not our lived experience.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that like everything that we discuss is everything that anybody on the autism spectrum, ADHD, all of that stuff deals with. Um, and it really does come down to like masking. How how able, right? Like masking, now I'm saying it out loud, masking is pretty ableist. How able are you to pretend like you can fit into
Yeah.
all the things? The neurotypical idea of communication, the neurotypical idea of social interactions, the neurotypical idea of how you should just be in the world, right? Um, and like those individuals who are level 3, profoundly autistic, like they are not able to mask. And so therefore, like, it's seen as like this, I don't know, it's such interesting discourse. Again, like, yeah, on social media of like when comments are made about autism and like the level 1s and level 2s of us out there are like, hey, no, like that's a very
Yeah.
generalized statement. We don't like, if we're not something to be cured, all this stuff. And then like hate to say it, but the autistic moms of those who are profoundly autistic come and they're like, we want a cure because like look at our child suffering. And I like get that. And also like what really just needs to change is, I mean, it's a systemic issue. I think every single we talked
Yeah.
about this last week too. It's a systemic issue. Like, um, if we had more social safety nets, if we had, yeah, if they, right, if they weren't, if it's a parent who's not lucky, either having a good financial situation or good health insurance, like to be able to have the interventions, the help, needed to care for their child and have them suffer less, like they wouldn't be suffering as much.
Right. Getting just the resources out, because even then we think about resources in different languages. That's a
Mhm.
big one. I know that like I've dealt with parents who are like, well, I didn't know what this was. They're
Mhm.
taught to teach their kids, like, hey, these are the things we need to do. We need to look a certain way. We need to present a certain way. But they don't understand that aside from that, like, their kids are doing these things because they need the support and they're not
Mhm.
recognizing it because they haven't been taught that. And yet
Yeah.
it comes down again to the education, the accessibility for a lot of things. And
Mhm.
I love that, like, there are companies that are like, hey, we're going to do parents' nights. We're going to educate. And I'm like, cool, but do you make your resources and the information available in different languages?
Right, because that's the important part because yeah, it's not this is not just a white person
Yeah.
diagnosis, right? Like unfortunately, it seems like a white person diagnosis because of again, the history of how autism was named and then researched. Like it all research was done on rich white boys. Like so of course for a very long time it was a rich white boys disorder and we're just now seeing like oh no, it's not. Um which kind of makes me think of how like oh right now we're like oh there's an epidemic. It's 1 in 31 children all of a sudden. It's like no no no. It's 1 in 31 children because we're actually accounting for like I don't know, the entire other half of the sex of
Yeah.
the world, like, of the country, like, not just boys, right? Like, "Oh, how about girls?" Okay, that's
Right.
50% of the population that we weren't looking at. How about not just white children, black children, Hispanic children, any Asian children, any children of color, right? That isn't just white, Caucasian, European descent. Like, we are literally within maybe God, I feel like not even the last decade. I feel like in the last decade, it became the spectrum and is just now becoming like um more gender inclusive,
Yeah.
more sex inclusive with like the diagnoses, but like I think a lot of times what happens is again, it's a systemic issue, the inherent racism of it all. Children who are of color get labeled with oppositional defiance disorder. Um when really it's probably autism or ADHD or both.
Well, yeah, you could think about that. And I mean, also the increase in number of women. There's
Mhm.
been a big spurt of women late diagnosed ADHD,
Like
autism.
diagnosed ADHD
Yeah.
autism, yeah. Because like, oh, we are actually looking at that now, right? Like
Right.
we're not having that inherent bias of like, oh well, this is a boys and man's disorder. Girls is rare, right? Like, okay, well, if we
Well,
get rid of that assumption and actually like look, it's like, oh no, it's not just a boys disorder. And like, oh, when we start to look at how again, it's like those cultural factors, how those cultural factors play into it, how much more, yeah, girls, women mask, probably BIPOC people mask. I can't speak for myself because I'm not BIPOC, but I'm assuming there's a lot of masking
right.
because
Yeah.
there is a way that women, BIPOC, have to present in
Yeah.
society that inherently teaches us to mask in general and then mask all of the symptoms of this stuff. Um,
Yeah, and I could
because
speak personally to that. I mean, when
yeah,
I was growing up, it was one of those things where, parents wanted you to have a career. And it wasn't like you needed to be a professional, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer. But in order
mhm,
to present that way, you needed to be very structural. And I mean, now you see the increase in all of the women who are in big fields. And I'm like, they're getting diagnosed because they're at that point of burnout. They're tired
yeah.
of like hiding all these things.
Well, and like I think back but think back on my childhood and I realized in the last several years I'm like oh none of this stuff was normal. None of this stuff was quote normal, right? Like I was struggling pretty hard but like not enough to cause any clinical I guess significance. Like oh yeah, I would have a meltdown at the beginning of every single school year. And my mom would have to sit there and be like, here's all the things that will be same. And yes, this will be different, but like you got through it last year and you will again this year. And then I'd be like, okay. Right. But like, huh,
Right.
that's weird. But it was never like thought, it was like, oh, maybe she just has like a little bit of anxiety or something, or, um, you know, but I always had good grades. I didn't really misbehave. And so, like, there was nothing wrong with me.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel that because I recall like even in high school, I was one of those where anytime I was in a moment of panic or anxiety was just getting the best of me, I dive into
Hmm.
books. I could read an entire book in a day.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the happiest kid ever. I'm like, okay, in my own little world, my little fairy tale.
Yeah. Autistic girls and reading books, man. Like, were you, do you think you were maybe like hyperlexic? Yeah. Um, I mean, it's an interesting, I think, and like, again, I think a lot of this doesn't get any, I don't know, we think of autism, we still very much think of like the very stereotypical, like, yeah, level 3, profoundly autistic, hurting themselves, hurting others, extreme emotional dysregulation, not being able to say where all the things, right? Like, or there's like the stereotypical, like, stuff you see on TV, like The Good Doctor and Sheldon and from The Big Bang. What other
Definitely.
autistic people are on TV that I'm like, oh, uh, that are like, they say they're autistic. Can't think of any other ones off the top of my head.
Oh, there's what is it? The Pit. That character in The Pit. I just seen
Oh yeah, the
snippets.
character, but that's a great representation though. Um, they do a really good representation there, but like I think of like the more like stereotypical like presentations of like, oh, these are not profoundly autistic people, but like they speak in a very monotone voice or very, very rigid, and they're not very like they're not as high masking as others. Whereas like I feel like yeah, the character in The Pit, you can tell she is masking or trying her best to, which I think is a great representation. Um, but like anytime someone who is level 1 autistic and then has like other features like hyperlexia or like just like I don't want to be like I have high intelligence, but I do. I if I took an IQ test, it would probably be higher than average. Not like crazy genius, but it'd be higher than average. The pattern recognition
That's a good one.
of it all. Like in how having these like the hyperlexia, pattern recognition, the slightly higher than average IQ like gets looked at as like, oh, they're gifted.
It sucks. I think that also plays into it because I mean, some people will look at it as a gifted thing. And then,
Hmm.
some people get tested and like, we got to prove that that's actually a gift, like it's
Yeah, like prove that
giftedness,
that's a gift to me because good Lord, I wish I like
right?
I am tired. And like yeah, I think like those things carried me through like K through 12. And like then I got into college and that's when I really started like struggling mentally. Um because it's just too much. And then like I really started noticing symptoms in like my late 20s, early 30s.
And I
Because
think,
again, it takes its toll
well,
after so long. Yeah.
and it's hard too to think that way. You get carried through a system for so long with all these thoughts, and then you reach a next point and you go into another system. And then it's like
Hmm.
a whole different thing, which also changes how people perceive you and your understanding of yourself. Because that's also like where misdiagnosis comes in. Because for the
Hmm. Hmm.
longest, I was like, okay, there's something up. I went into college myself, and they're like, nope, you got depression, you got anxiety, all these other
Ah,
things.
yes.
And then you get stuck there. And I'm like, but there's more to it.
The Yeah, the golden, let's see, I got generalized anxiety, major depression, and I don't know, they couldn't quite decide if it was like my therapist was like, it's OCD. My psychiatrist is like, maybe it's OCD personality because it's not quite OCD. It was never quite OCD. Um, yeah, the like holy trifecta of the diagnoses before you get late diagnosed as a woman. Um,
Right.
yep. You're just depressed. You're just anxious. Like, yeah, I'm depressed and anxious because like everything's so hard all of a sudden. And like there is that like, yeah, you have this conception of yourself through like, yeah, K through 12 where you're like, I got this. I'm like good. I'm smart, right? I can get good grades and I can do all the things. And you're kind of like held up. And then you get to college and all of a sudden it becomes hard because it's a new system. And like it really shakes your like
Or your sense of self.
core. Yeah, your sense of
Yeah.
self, your identity. Like it really shakes your sense of self. And all you're left with asking yourself is like, why can't I do this when I could before? And no one has any answers for you other than like, I don't know, just do better, try harder. You should be capable of this.
Right.
And I think like that's the difference, like with it being like that clinical significance, right? Like it's the impairment, like, yeah, late diagnosed adults manage to get through the majority of their lives. Okay. But they were hiding it all. And then like I always tell my late adult clients, like basically you get to the being adult and there's just so much more, like a lot of that external structure is removed because like your parents aren't taking care of that anymore. Like you have to take care of that stuff now. And all of a sudden, whatever strategies you have built, they don't,
Yeah. You got to find
they're not
something that
enough.
works for you. Yeah.
They're just not enough. Or they were probably maladaptive in the first place. And like, and you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time. Um,
And it's
and
funny because
so, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I think too, there's that cultural piece too, where, for me, grief played into when I go into college. Like, there's massive loss in my family. And it
Oh,
was funny because I could not describe it. Like, I knew I was grieving. And when I went to
uh-huh,
therapy, they're like, something happened. So we're just going to give you PTSD. And I could not move on from PTSD. And anytime I
mm,
went to get assessed or get support, they'd be like, well, we can't give you anything because we're not sure
you
if
have
it's more
trauma.
than, yeah, it's just the trauma. And I remember getting to Colorado when I moved here for grad school. And I was like, no, there's something more. Like in my gut, I knew there was more. I went and got assessed. The group that I went to get assessed were all males. And they're like,
Mhm,
no, you're stuck in your trauma. Like it's not anything else. They wouldn't give me ADHD. They wouldn't give me autism. And then it was funny because then I went to a trauma-based therapist and she's like, no, girl, you
mhm,
got ADHD. She suggested I
yeah,
get assessed again. So I found someone, a female who was trauma informed. She did the assessment for autism and she's like, girl, yes, you have depression, you have anxiety, you have PTSD, ADHD, and you have
yeah,
autism. And I was like,
like,
oh, go figure.
oh, finally. Yes, I remember, like, in grad school, it was just so, like God, I spent my entire time in grad school trying to, like, look for answers, like, why am I just, like, not okay? When, like, I don't have a lot, like, not, like and this is a very, like, privileged stance, thing for me to say, but, like, my parents are pretty great. Yes, they had their moments. Yes, it left its marks and whatnot, but, like, they were always loving and, like, I had good parents. Nothing really crazy traumatic happened to me when I was a child. I was just like, why am I so like not okay? And I was like looking at like epigenetics and like family histories. I'm like, well, I guess it's just genetic. It's just genetic. And like, yeah, actually, it is just genetic. um, actually, it is just genetic, just not the right uh disorders.
One.
Yeah. Because I was just like, I shouldn't be feeling so God, I don't know. Part of me felt just like I was broken, and like part of me felt like I was just like, wrong. Like part of me felt like like it wasn't until grad school that I was like really having a hard time trying to make new social uh connections and like just having a hard time fitting in, and like, making friends. And I was like, what is this? I don't understand. Um, yeah. I was like, why am I having such a hard time? I don't know. I shouldn't be.
Do you
Now I
think
know.
But it's funny too because we both went to the same school. Like I had done a different
Hmm.
program prior, and it was funny to me because in my first program for grad school, it was very focused on the diagnosis, medications, very Western train of thought.
Yeah.
And I did not feel like I could be myself in that setting. Like I
Hmm.
did not know. Like I wasn't taught that way. I went to Naropa And it was like, hey, we're going to talk about all the feelings. We're going to do all of it from all the aspects. And I was
Yeah.
more myself there. And I'm like, oh, these things are all valid. I saw myself from a different perspective. And I think to me, Naropa gave me that chance to find my voice of like, I have experience, I have dealt, I have witnessed, I've gone above and beyond in all these different parts of myself. And
Hmm.
I was able to be like, oh, I can advocate for myself. I have needs, voicing them. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of nice to have that place of like, hey, your culture is valid. We just got to find a way to introduce it to all these things. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's why I'm a big advocate when it comes to working with my clients of like, hey, what other things have we talked about in your family, in your culture? Like, let's bring all that up because that all is going to matter in how you present and how
Hmm.
people are going to see you.
Yeah. 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 I'm glad that Naropa was like, yes, for you and like helped you with that. For me, Naropa was very much like I was like, oh, I get to be my authentic self. Okay, I'm gonna be authentic. And it wasn't very well received that first like 2 semesters. I had a tough time. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can I just like not why do I feel so like on the outside of it all? Um And I don't know, I think like part of like I didn't start seriously considering that I might be like on the spectrum until God, what is the place called? It's not Windhorse, but it is an equine facilitated therapy place. And I was volunteering there and one of their horses there is like haha autistic, but no really, like he is horse
That's so
autistic. Like he's like the low man in the hierarchy. Nobody wants to be around him. His communication, like horse communication is all wrong. Like he cannot
cool.
communicate well with the other horse. Yeah. And like I was like drawn to that horse. And I like saw a lot of myself in that horse. I was like, I'm this horse and he is me and like I got him. And he like he drove me nuts and also like there was just something special about him, but I was like maybe I'm got like something like he does. And then like I was just like, nah, I couldn't be. I have friends. I can talk to people if I need to.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that, but I think not to not say Naropa wasn't hard because Naropa
Mm.
asked a lot. I mean, I know that they made sure that they're like a requirement. Go to therapy
Yeah.
because they pushed our buttons. But I think
Oh yeah.
I got lucky because I did have people in my cohort who were neurodivergent and they
Mhm.
recognized the quirks, and I think that was the reason that I felt safe to be like, okay, I have all these things. You guys are letting
Mhm.
me have all my things because we're all okay showing up for each other.
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, I feel like, certain professors would have changed that for me. I think I would have gone back to my shell of just observe and stay away. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like half my cohort was neurodivergent and like they were in like the same kind of like, huh, thing that I was going through or like had been diagnosed with like at least ADHD. And then the other half was not. And the other half, yeah, there's like some of us who were just like trying our best and like and honestly it's the people who were neurodivergent that I like still talk to from that cohort on a regular basis. We're
So
the ones who like those are the ones who ended up actually being like friends that stayed like past, graduating and moving and whatnot. Um, because yeah, it was rough, but like yeah, so I think we talked a bit about social difficulties and we talked about masking all in like the same time because it all is very much intertwined. Like, and for people who don't know, masking is basically something that neurodivergent people do in order to fit in. It's like a survival mechanism, basically, to fit in and be accepted by others,
yeah,
especially neurotypical individuals. Um, and
we're mirroring what we're
yeah,
perceiving from other people, just that way that we can fit in and they can see themselves and kind of acknowledge of like, oh, that person's like me. Cool.
yeah, yeah. Or like part sometimes with masking, it's like picking up certain like people will script things. People will watch movies and then copy that stuff. People will look at like a friend group and like try to like, oh yeah, same interest, blah, blah, blah. And like try to make sure they fit in, because I feel like even with masking, somehow they can still tell that we're just ever so slightly off.
Well, I
Like,
feel like we could be masking, but other things come through. I mean, some people
yeah,
are really good at masking, but their echolalia like pops up a little bit, and you're like, I know something's up.
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that at all. Um, or like gosh, once I like kind of realized like what was going on, I had like this like quintessential story where I was at a bar for a friend's birthday, and like I didn't know anybody else there except for the friend. And I like went to go get a drink, and one of the other people there like came up and she was like talking to me, and I didn't realize until like later that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. But like she like, oh, how do you know so and so? And I'm like, oh, we used to work together. And then like I wasn't doing any like reciprocal follow-up questions. I would just answer her a question and then stop talking to her. And then she'd like try again and ask me another question. And I'd be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And stop talking. Like, and she asked me she tried 3 times to get me to like engage. But I was
Yeah.
like having that, like, I don't know you. I don't know. Like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to make this small talk. Like, this is uncomfortable for me. Like, I'm already uncomfortable because like I don't know anybody else here. And then later I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to ask her questions back. And I feel like that's part of asking. Like, we have learned and like keep tabs on what the like expected responses,
Yeah.
yeah, social norms are, and like we are supposed to do them. But like in high, maybe if I wasn't so stressed out that like I was in a loud environment and like there was a lot of people there that I didn't know, like I probably would have done a little bit better at masking. But I did not do so well at masking. And then she was like, okay, well, I'll see you over there, and left. uh, I was like, okay. um and yeah, like later that night, as I was falling asleep, I was like, I was supposed to ask her questions, the same questions. Like I could have just repeated those questions back to her. It's not that hard. But social differences.
Well, I mean, that's funny because you say that, and then you think about like even our conversations when we're talking, we don't
Yeah.
reciprocate by asking questions. We go off on tantrums, and it's like this conversation of random facts going back and forth when we like
Right,
neurodivergent
right. Like
people
I don't
talk.
think we've asked each other really any questions, but we just are like, yeah, me too, me too, me too, me too. This,
Yep.
this. Like, and that's honestly like neurodivergent talk. There is no like, oh, tell me about your experience. It's just like you just share the experience, and then the other person's like, similar experience, to show that like, yeah, I understand. And neurotypical people don't like that. They want you to not do that. They want you to just be like, that sucks. Because then they think you're talking about yourself. And like you and I have both done it now, like a bunch. And like neither of us are getting mad at each other
So we're just
because
laughing. Yeah, we
yeah,
know, we get it.
yeah,
That's our
because we get it.
experience.
That's just
Yeah.
normal conversation for us. Um, but like I want to like kind of like that's why I say is social differences, communication differences, like the whole like, oh, you're too blunt, you're too honest, like is actually just direct communication. Like we're not gonna like hedge around and like try to hint and like whatever. Like we're just gonna be like, yeah, I didn't like that, don't do that. Or like, yeah, I liked that a lot. And we'll probably say it exactly like that, monotone and flat
Yep.
affect. And like take it for what we're saying, not that we're like trying to hurt your feelings or be rude or whatever. Like a lot of what I found with, high masking autistics is like we don't like passive aggressiveness, either because like it's not clear or we don't understand that you're being passive aggressive, right? Like we don't pick it up as passive aggressiveness, or we do and then we're like, but I don't know what you want from me. Like just say it. Like, oh, I'm fine. Passive aggressive. What do you mean? Just tell me how you're feeling so I can like
Right.
fix this, right? Um, tell me what you want me to do and I will do it. Just say it dramatically. That's like, so that's a communication difference. Like the eye contact. eye contact stuff. Um, like I don't know if you and I have actually like stared at each other's eyes in well, we're
No.
on camera, but you know what I mean? I think
I
we've been looking
don't
all
think
around the entire time.
well, and even
Yeah.
then I could think of times where I've tried to be like, okay, I'm gonna look at her and I'm like, I can't. It
Yeah.
makes me anxious. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you your space. I'm in my own little world, you be in yours. Like we can still be in
Yeah.
communication.
I think we would just like hang out in a room and like not look at each other, but like talk the entire time. Like we don't need to make eye contact. We know that we are both there. Um, and like how that's part of masking too, of it took me years to realize like, yeah, I can make eye contact in the sense like it's enough that it doesn't bother neurotypical people, right? Like it meets the required amount or whatever. Um, but yeah, when I like watch back these videos, I am almost never looking at the camera.
It's fun.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't make eye contact with the camera even. I'm like, like all over the place. And like, that's because like, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I don't like it. But I'm constantly monitoring that. Like, and like, it's just like a background process. Is that like the same for you? Like, it's just kind of
Yeah.
like there in the back. Like, I'm not like actively thinking about it, but there's a devoted amount of brain power or energy constantly running. Eye contact, EXE, is it enough?
You know,
Um, yeah.
and it's funny because
Um,
I feel like it's a situational thing too. So I know
mhm.
that like if I'm talking to someone who has power, like an authority figure, I'm like, okay, do the eye contact thing, do the eye contact thing. And then I'm like, okay, I'm making myself anxious because I know that that's
Yeah.
expected of me.
Mhm.
But it's funny because I like the moment that I can turn that off, I'm just like,
Yeah.
in my own little world. Yeah.
Um, and I like manage it by like if I'm talking, it's okay if you're not looking at the person while you're talking because a lot of times you're looking up or you're thinking, right? Like you kind like it's kind of a known that you look in a direction to think about what you're saying and like it's okay if you're not making eye contact. But when they're talking, I try my best to maintain eye contact, which is really just looking at their face. This is for all you autistic people out there. Eye contact does not actually mean direct staring each other in the eyes. We're taking that too literally, which will go on to the next thing of all or nothing, all or nothing thinking, and like taking things literally. It just means looking at their face.
Which is really funny because I was
Yeah.
taught really young, form a triangle around the person's face.
Oh,
That
interesting.
yeah, because you're still
You're
technically
looking.
looking in that
Yeah.
direction, but you don't have to like you could be looking on the side of the chin,
Hmm.
looking at the
Yeah.
nose. Other
I say look at
places,
people's. I tell my clients to look at people's mouths a lot because then that helps with auditory processing issues as well.
mm,
It's like, okay, well, you're looking at their face, and they're not going to care if it's their eyes or their mouth as long as you're looking at them, and like then you can watch their mouth. And it'll help with any auditory processing issues, which was fun during COVID and masking. I was like, God, I can't hear anything. More like I could hear, it's just my brain could not process it because I didn't have the added like sensory input of watching
yeah,
someone's mouth make the sounds. Um, but yeah, and I think we could probably like pair this together, the internal dialogue and all or nothing thinking, because it's all thinking processes. Like, um, okay, are you an individual who has an internal monologue?
yes.
Okay,
It's
so apparently there's people who don't, and I don't know how. Well, first of all, how nice that must be that it's just like shh, quiet in there. But like, is it your voice
it is my
talking
voice,
to you?
but for me,
Yes.
it's a little more complicated because I've talked to
Yeah.
my partner about this. I am bilingual, so for
Yeah.
me, it's a jump between I'm thinking and hearing in Spanish, but then I have to
Yeah.
process and output in English.
Yes. So like I've heard that like once if you are your first language is not English, you have to think it. My friend who is also Hispanic, her first language is also Spanish, and she's told me this too. She's like, I have to think everything in Spanish, translate it in my head, and then say it in English. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Like
And
that
it sucks
sounds
because I
horrible.
I I I've learned other languages. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, actually, I was watching a video. Guy was talking Spanish, French, and English, and they were
Hmm.
talking about how your brain processes all these things, and it pulls your emotional strings when you can follow along and you're listening and nothing. You don't question where the switch happens. Like,
Mm.
have you ever had of that? Like, I do it where people talk to me, like, my sister and I do it all the time. We jump between Spanish and English,
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah.
there's no flip. And I think it's funny because I think that was what I hit on a lot when I did my capstone for my master's, is
Hmm.
that like you find the emotional pulls of the languages and that becomes your voice. Like you
Yeah. Yeah.
translate things, but you're also pulling. Like when I speak with my bilingual people,
Hmm.
sometimes we'll be like all English and then the emotional heavy stuff happens and it happens all in Spanish.
Right. Right. Because, and I think too, it's like partially because it's easier to process. Because that's what your brain's like. Oh, that's the thing I know how to process best in is my
Yep.
first language. And two, it's also, I think it's also just like an expression thing because um I feel like different languages have like the way they describe different emotions. Like the English equivalent to it doesn't like quite make sense, but like it does in Spanish or it does in French or it does in German or whatever. Like, and then I think of like a lot of Asian languages are very tonal. Like that if you say the same thing, it'll sound like three different words, but it's the tone in which it's said that changes the meaning. And like to be fair, I feel like English is a very like not emotional language. No. Um,
It's like
what do you mean? My words that I have to describe how this complex feeling that I'm feeling is either angry or frustrated, which is just another type of anger, or like mad or
right.
upset, which what does that mean? Like there's just no like there's been so many times where I'm like, I cannot put this like express this feeling into like English words. Um, which is where like art comes in. But then I like see like, oh, in whatever language, like we have a word for that and it's this. And I'm like, ah, why doesn't English have that word? Like it's so clunky. English is also like a very clunky, weird language too. Like don't get me started on going down that rabbit hole because I will. Um, I'll put ourselves back onto track. Okay, so internal dialogue, like yeah, the internal monologue, all the thoughts you have, you can hear them in your head and it's your voice, but you also hear it like in Spanish first and then you translate it to English before you say it. Um, I don't have that because the voice inside my head is English, because I speak English, and she's also me. Um, but I talk to myself as if it's two separate entities.
I can't do that.
Yeah. Like there is me on the outside and there's me on the inside and um sometimes it'll be like I like Christine, why'd you do that? But it's Christine talking to Christine about like why she's like keeps turning around in circles or whatever. Or like when my brain won't shut the fuck up because it's also just like let's also think about all these things, which is also not my voice, but is my voice. But there's two distinct I sound crazy. Someone's
I
gonna
know.
be
I
like,
mean, it's intriguing to me because, like you're saying, that you have these conversations, but it's for you
yeah,
to make sense of yourself. I
yeah.
can't have that because then I
No.
spiral and then I'm just like, holy shit, I'm being really judgmental of myself. And then it's in
Well,
both English
yeah.
and Spanish. And I'm just like,
No,
I
this is
can't.
I have that problem too. Like I
I,
also spiral and ruminate and like
oh
get
my God, no.
judgmental of myself and it's taken years of therapy and mindfulness to like ease it somewhat. But like yeah, talking about internal like dialogue and like all or nothing thinking, like the idea with like rumination and like how many autistic individuals ruminate on things. Especially like things they did in the past or things that they're going to do or and then like that I think that's how they end up we end up getting diagnosed with anxiety or OCD first because it does look like that but it's not the cause of it is not anxiety or OCD, it's the autism of it all and our like I feel like with odd ADHD like my brain never shuts down. I have hyperactivity, it's just in here, it's constant, it never shuts up. I literally have to sometimes like be like shut up to my brain, which sounds counterintuitive because I'm
But
talking to
I mean,
myself. But
and it's funny because I feel like that's
yeah.
also a big thing of like how these things present. I mean,
Hmm.
at least in my experience and the clients that I work with, most of my hyperactive are the males that are
Hmm.
physically, and you can see it and you can recognize it right away. Where in the females, it's all up here. And I have to be like,
Hmm.
hey, let's slow down because I can see it in your face. Something's happening.
Yeah. And then they get diagnosed with predominantly inattentive. And I've seen several videos of like researchers be like, yeah, actually female ADHD, the hyperactivity is just in the brain. And I wonder how much of that has been because like we have learned that like we can't be as boys, it's okay for them to be active and like silly goofy and tussling with each other and all this stuff. And girls are supposed to like sit and be quiet and like prim and proper, all this stuff. Like how much of that hyperactivity just gets pushed inwards instead of being expressed outwards is all internalized. Cause yeah, it's never ending. And like whenever I am diagnosing like like an adult or even like an almost adult, like teen with ADHD, and they're like, oh yeah, I get in trouble because I talk a lot. And I'm like, aha,
There it is.
there it is. Yeah, you put me next to a friend in school and I could not shut the hell up. I was a chatter. And like if the material wasn't interesting enough, engaging for me, I was gone. Like just talking, bothering people. And like it was never enough to be like her behavior's bad. Like it was just like, oh, we're just gonna move you to a different seat or whatever. Uh and then it was usually mitigated. But like, yeah, if I wasn't interested, man, you could not. I mean, listen to I've been talking a lot because I talk.
It happens though. I mean, and it's kind of interesting to see when
Shut
those
me
things
up,
pull up.
interrupt me. Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me think too of like, you know, we get taught to always speak up, and I'm like, you're not activating us. You're not giving us enough to go off of. Like, we're just gonna be bored. We're gonna be quiet. We're gonna be thinking about other things. Doesn't mean we're not thinking. We're just thinking about other
We're
things
not
that
thinking
interest
about
us.
that.
Yeah.
We're gonna be thinking about the things that interest us and not that. Or I'm gonna be trying to find a way to engage myself with something that I'm interested in
Yep.
and not the thing that you want me to think about.
Which sucks because it makes me think of like rejection, RSD
Rejection sensitivity. Yeah.
sensitivity. Yep. Because then it's like, it also becomes a judgment on us for not participating on what's on hand. I'm like, we have interests, we have things. Let us be okay with those things. We'll come back to whatever you wanting us to talk about. Like, don't make us hate ourselves or feel guilty for enjoying the things that we enjoy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it triggers that rejection of like, oh, I'm not trying hard enough to like be focused on what I need to be focused on, and also like I'm not allowed to focus on what I want to focus on, whether it's something like important that like we are interested in. I don't know. What is something that's important that I'm interested in to my daily life? Um, I don't know. The D&D, my D&D group that I run, my social skills D&D group. I have a really fun time thinking about that. And it's important. I have to for work. Compared to um thinking about writing my notes and getting them done.
Yeah.
Both are things that I need to do for work. And I will probably always put actually like the things, don't listen to Discord, but the things that I like to do the most for work are see clients, work on like this stuff, the Arts and Minds Festival, the podcast, the marketing stuff. Those things hold the most interest for me, clients and that. And then when it comes to like, and then like also like intern stuff, supervision, if we're doing like a hierarchy, clients, art festival, marketing stuff, doing supervision, and then it's like anything admin related.
Yeah, that pushes into that executive function because I do
Yeah.
that. Like, I could go and see 100 clients if I could in a day. I would.
Yeah.
Come to the notes. I'm just like, there goes
Please
whatever
don't make me do
energy.
this.
Yeah, like,
Yep.
it's so hard.
Which like ties into like executive dysfunction. And it's executive dysfunction. So executive functioning is like the ability to, yeah, just like, oh, I have to do this task. okay, I have the motivation to do it. I know what the steps are in order in which to do it. And like, I get the dopamine reward afterwards. I feel good about completing that task. Um, that's executive functioning. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
Executive dysfunctioning is when you don't want to do the task because you're not getting the motive. Like your brain is not like, we're motivated to do this because of XYZ. It's just like, yeah, I'm motivated to get my notes done and the treatment and stuff because I know that I like need to, and there's like an anxiety driving it, but like it's not fun. And it's not fun because I don't get the dopamine at the end. Right? Like it's not fun. You don't want to do it because you don't get the dopamine at the end. Your brain doesn't release that like reward system for us at the end of the task that feels hard to be like, yay, I did it. I feel like I accomplished something. Yes, like we don't get that. It's just like, good, you did it.
And I think that's also something that people need to understand is that it's not laziness. It's not that we don't want
No.
to get things done. It's just that it's a struggle to start to do these things because at the end of the day,
yeah,
like, what are we getting out of it? Nothing. Not really. Just
yeah,
a thumbs
nothing.
up.
And so we like end up with not even barely, sometimes even a thumbs up. Our brain's just like, do the next thing now. And you're like, like, no. That's why we get like task paralysis, which is where we're like, oh, I know I need to do this and I just cannot start. Or like, there's task paralysis, or like not feeling overwhelmed by tasks. Like, oh, there's just so much that entails me doing this. Like, it's just a lot of steps, or it's a lot of repetitiveness, like tediousness. There's nothing novel or new about it. Not interesting. It's also looks like with executive dysfunction. Yeah, it's not lazy. Like the idea that like so many people are like, oh, you're just lazy. Like you're just being lazy and not getting the notes done. It's like, no, I would. If I could chop off my left arm and give it to you and I would then be able to get my notes done, I would. Like, yep. I would do anything to get my notes done, except for get my notes done. Like, just do them. Anything really else.
Because I just had a moment, like, I think a few days ago, I was like, I have to do all these things. And I, all my notes, I went to go look them up and I couldn't figure it out. So I was, okay, I'm going to go figure this out. Went into our system and I was like, I'm going to download all the things that I need to do. And I was so proud of myself, got myself going. Almost at the point of burnout because I was like staying up, not sleeping at all during the week. Mm-hmm. Then I come back to the email and the email I had misread. They're like, we're looking between these dates that you need to get these done. And then I cried. I've been crying because I've done all these notes that are not within the window that they're looking for me to have them done. And I'm just like,
and see, that's part of executive dysfunction as well. Is like, you don't fucking read the details. Like your brain's just like, got it. And just like skips over everything. Do it. Like you miss part of the instructions. And then you're like, yeah, you either like do way too much or not enough. And then you like realize that like, oh my God, I just like ran myself ragged doing way too much, or you do not enough. And then like the person's like, hey, what the heck is this? You need to do more. And you're like, what? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
It's impossible. And there's no in between, everyone. There's no in between. It's, again, all or nothing. Like, and one way I described executive dysfunction is like when there are multiple tasks to do, there is no like, oh, we'll just like make a list, right? And do like, put it in like the thing you need to do the most first and then the thing you need to do last. There is no thing I need to do most first because all of the things are the thing that I need to do most first. Yep. They are all of equal importance. And if I could do all of them just at the same time, I would. And I think a lot of us do try to. It doesn't work.
I think this is how we get closer to burnout than we realize because we're like, we got this, we can do this, let's go. Yeah. And then we're halfway through everything and we're just like, I'm tired. Good.
Like, this is like a pretty innocuous example. But I realized like last night, I didn't get home until probably like 8:30 and I was like at the house, in the house all day. And, I think every single thing, because like I feel like part of executive dysfunction is time blindness. Every single thing, I'm like, we're gonna do this to this house. I have thought like, how long is it gonna take? Like an hour or two? Wrong. Wrong. I'm not sure when we started doing the like fake tile that I got in the
Oh no.
bathroom, but I think it took like 4 hours.
Oh man.
I know it's like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so tired. And there's no like stopping, like there's no like, oh, just stop and like come back to it tomorrow. And it's like, no, I like have to get this done. It was only supposed to take like 2 hours. Like I finished.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
because
That's
if I
hard.
don't, then I may not want to do it again tomorrow. That's the other problem. But like once you have, like sometimes you get random like, yeah, motivation, do it. And
You
then if
want
you
to take
stop,
advantage of that moment
yeah.
of like,
And then
hey,
if you
let's
stop
go.
doing it, you may not ever do it again. It may be weeks, months before you're like, okay, I'm ready to do this again. So you're just like, yeah, I better just do this for the next 10 hours and get as much done as I possibly can. Otherwise I'll never get done. And like all of that is like really stressful.
Very much.
It causes clinically significant distress and impairment. And this is just like our experience with it. Some people have experience this way worse than just us. But it's enough that like, yeah, we need help. Like you and I need help, support. Like I take medication. I have a therapist. I, I know you too do those things. Like we've been talking about like maybe accommodations at work with the different things like going on because like we
Yeah.
are. Well, I feel like I'm pretty authentic. I don't have masking. I'm still masking somewhat because I'm playing the role of the therapist, but um, I'm masking somewhat during work. I'm constantly trying to manage my executive functioning, um, while also let's see, we're at hours. Let's touch on like one of the last things here, that emotional regulation piece of like, it's just harder to regulate our emotions when so much is going on, which I think also ties into like sensory stuff as well. I think part of like the struggle of emotional regulation is because like we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. Because we're already dealing with differences in communication, executive dysfunction. Our brains are constantly talking to us and analyzing things and overthinking things and yeah, trying to make us feel bad about it and all this stuff. We're constantly trying to ride the line between all and nothing thinking and trying to find the gray area, the in between areas. We're we're masking, we're trying to fit in. And then on top of that, the majority of us autistic and ADHD people have very sensitive nervous systems. Um, which I honestly think like if they ever want to like maybe I should be on the committee for how the diagnosis is done because I truly think it is more of a nervous system developmental thing than it which your brain is part of that, but like every single autistic and ADHD person struggles with over or under stimulation
Yes. Very much so.
all the time. We are never at a baseline. We are constantly either overstimulated by sensory input or understimulated by sensory input. And sometimes it's at the same time.
Yes. So bad.
And you're probably like, what? How? You're like, I don't know. All I know is that the lights in my room, this room, which I have to be this way, are too bright that at the end of the day, my eyes hurt. And also, I need to be playing with a fidget toy all day long. So I am constantly needing more stimulation and also less stimulation. And like, I think the like regulation of it all comes into, yeah, stimming, right? Like
Yeah.
that is me trying to regulate feeling too overstimulated by inputting a different sort of stimulation that feels better,
Yeah.
I
I
guess.
think no, and that makes total sense because I have clients like in my office, I have the string lights because I don't like the big
Mm-hmm.
lights. I've
Mm-hmm.
lowered the blinds on the window.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I have clients that are like, hey, I don't know what I'm like feeling. They're struggling and I can see it. And I'm like, okay, what do we do? Do we like lower the lights? Do we need to fidget? Like I've bought
Yep.
pillows with fuzzies and like I've put a whole bunch of plushies with different textures, sounds, and it
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
helps when it's like the sensory thing. You go and have a little thing and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's find that in between
Yeah.
of like what kind of
For
sensory input that we really need to
that you
regulate.
need. Yeah, and, like, sometimes, like, I've told my, like, autistic clients that do, like, and I feel like sometimes it's everyone is a different sort of, like, sensory profile, right? I think for the most part, generally, it is, like, oscillating between that hyper and hyposensitivity. But for some people, it is way more hyper than hypo, is way more, and I say hypo than hyper, right? Like, so, like, some people, it oscillates, but in general, their nervous system just is always wanting way more sensory input. And for some people, it oscillates too, but their nervous system is needing way less sensory input. And so, like, I used to, like, tell my clients who had the, like, more hypersensitive, like, trending more towards hypersensitive, I'm like, "You gotta have, like, sensory deprivation time, like, go into a room, make it as dark as you possibly can, no lights whatsoever, lay down on the floor, have floor time, not on a bed. You can put down a soft blanket if you want, but you need that hard, like, grounding floor. Don't listen to music, like, quiet. Put, like, earplugs in or something. Like, no sensory input whatsoever other than feeling your back on the ground and maybe whatever it is you're touching on the ground. But, like, there's no sound, there's no light, no special sense, like, have it as sensory deprived as possible and just do that for, like, 20 minutes a day. And, like, my clients were like, "Oh, yeah, I started doing that, and, like, oh my god, what a difference." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
need to, like, reduce the sensory." And, like, unfortunately, we live in a world that is all electric lights that we can hear the humming of the things, and it's
Which is
bright,
crazy
and
because that
yeah,
happens a lot for neurodivergent people that we get that super sensitive of like we can hear the damn electricity.
yeah, I can hear the everything humming, and, like, also, we cannot tune it out either. Like, there is no ignoring it. Like, not only can we hear it, but we also can't ignore it. Um, it drives me when I, like, really, like, start to, like, not be and, like, I think that's why, like, I'm constantly having to be, like, watching something or doing something, like, occupying my brain in some way because once I do and, like, why I also have to sleep with earplugs in my ears because once I do get to that state where I'm like, "Okay, it's time to, like, stop distracting myself from all of this," all of a sudden, I can hear everything, and it all sounds so loud. Like, I can hear the air conditioning running and the fridge out in the kitchen and, like, the hum of I can hear people moving in the other apartments, and I'm just like, I can't sleep. I can hear the dog breathing in the other room, like,
Wow.
cats walking around. And then I can't, like, because my brain's just like, like, zooms and it, like, amplifies it. Um, like,
But I
even
love
now with these headphones on, I can hear the air conditioning running, and I can't,
yeah,
like, block it out. I can't
I
ignore it.
love that though. Like I don't know why I never thought of this, but like you explaining that just kind of made me think of why I enjoyed being in a dark room when I was an undergrad. I used to develop all my own film for
Oh,
photography
yes. I
and
loved being in a dark room.
it was such an easy thing for me. That was my safe space and I never understood it. You just painted that picture of me like everything like literally only one of my senses was always functioning. It was my smells like my sense of smell because of the chemicals. Everything else was quiet because you couldn't
Yeah,
hear that much electricity. You were not seeing so many lights. It was the red light and that was it. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, that
We
makes so
had
much
2
sense.
dark rooms at my undergrad, and one had it didn't have a red light, it had, like, a yellow light, but it was all kosher, for making developing film, and that one was my favorite because the red light actually a lot of times hurts my eyes. My eyes are very sensitive, it hurts my eyes, but I loved that room because it was, like, so dark that, yeah, there was no extra light, and, like, it was just, like, one light up in the ceiling that was, like, so dim, and it wasn't enough to, like, mess with and, like but it was still, like, that, like, more, like, comfortable, like, warm yellowy light, um, and, yeah, it was quiet, so there's no, like nothing's electric in there, it's all, just using the things and like adjusting and then putting it in the chemicals. Oh, yes. I did not like the rooms in which we had to get the film out and put on a reel because those were too dark. You couldn't see
I felt
anything.
claustrophobic.
Yeah, I
Ours were
felt
in a
claustrophobic
corner. Ours were in a corner. But
there.
hey,
Yeah.
if I ever go to Korea, that's something I'm looking into because Korea apparently has a big thing for art therapy and being in a dark room.
Oh, yeah. Sensory deprivation. So like a lot of times when it comes to emotional regulation for neurodivergent folks, it's not about, oh, just calm down. And like sometimes this is why like breathing, it can help, but it also doesn't because like
Yeah.
we need sensory regulation. We need sensory input to help us regulate our nervous system so that we then can regulate our emotional state. Um, because we're being sent, we are constantly, the way I describe it is like basically we have a smaller window of tolerance because of everything. And then, so we are constantly on the edge of going outside of our window of tolerance all the time. And it's when like little things like there's too much noise in this restaurant or these lights are too bright sends us out of that window of tolerance. And then people are like, oh, you're being dramatic or like, oh, you're having a, why are you so upset about this? Right. And like a lot of times, like there's other stuff making us upset that's like actually like way deeper than like the lights are too loud. Um,
Right.
but it's the lights are too loud is what breaks the straw on the camel's back. And then it all comes out. And so like the best thing to help us regulate our emotions is regulating sensory input. And honestly, like with the powers that be thinking about like, oh, maybe actually ADHD is also just part of the same spectrum. It's all part of the same spectrum as autism. Like it's not just autism, it's not just ADHD, it's a spectrum. Like that's where I'm like, yeah, it's like a nervous system disorder
Yeah.
where like our nervous systems are just dialed up to 1,000 all the time. And it creates like this cascade of resulting traits and symptoms.
And it's crazy because then to me, like you're saying this, and I'm just thinking like, yeah, it sucks. As adults, we struggle just kind of figuring out that we're either overstimulated or understimulated. And then but
Yeah.
then it makes you think of kiddos who
Yeah.
are still learning the basics of communication. And then it turns out as a tantrum, and people are like, and this
Yeah.
is it. They don't know how to
Like, why is my
communicate.
kid misbehaving all the time? It's like all behavior is communication. They just don't know how to say, like, oh, the light, it's hurting my eyes and it's making me feel anxious or
Right?
irritated. Like, they don't know how to, like, say that. They're just kids and they're still learning that. And so, like, I feel like a lot of times when, like, parents bring their kids in for therapy and they're, figured out they just are ADHD or autistic, they're like, fix it. It's like, no, there's no fixing this. Like, you have to learn. Like, I can help them communicate better and give them the tools to help them regulate themselves. But, like, if they are having a tantrum, it's most likely not because they don't like you. They're not like
Right.
doing it to make your life hard. It's because they are feeling life is hard for them. And how do we hold boundaries and expectations? Because that is needed. Autistic children, ADHD, they need boundaries and expectations just as much as any other child. How do we hold that and also honor the fact that like the world is also not made for them?
Right. Validate their experience.
Validate their experience, but it doesn't mean they just get to do whatever they want either. Validate the experience and help them move through it. Give them the words, give them the tools to help them regulate themselves. Um, Honestly, whenever fidgets became like so popular, like what, like right before COVID or something, I feel like that's been like life changing.
Yes.
Because there was no fidgets when we were children. Like it was you doodled on your
It's
notebook
crazy.
or moved around too much, and then you got in trouble for that. You also got in trouble for doodling too.
I was like, yeah, I would doodle. I remember getting in trouble for doodling.
Yep, yep. You're not paying attention. Actually, I am. I'm paying so much more
So much
attention
more
because I'm
attention.
doodling.
Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe you should be more interesting because I'm bored and it's the only thing that's keeping me somewhat attention right now is that I'm doodling. Um, so yeah, I feel like we have hit all the basics here and gone
So
like into some things, but um, it's one of those things where the difference between the fact that, yeah, like neurotypical people stim. They will tap their foot, they will mess with click their pen, like they stim too. It's just what's the difference between like, are you doing that because you have this like almost like perseverating, God, what's the word? Perseveration. It's like perseverating need to do it because you just don't feel at ease ever. Like, right, you're like managing some sort of internal anxiety to the point at which it becomes disruptive in your life, or were you just feeling like anxiety in that moment and like because it was it's like there's the difference between feeling just a low level of like nothing is quite right
Right.
all the time versus like I'm nervous about this big meeting today. And so I'm clicking my pen a lot because we have that. And also, I'm just at ease all the time. I am uncomfortable 24/7, 365, whether it be physically, mentally, or emotionally. Like it's never quite just, you know?
Well,
Um, and I think that's the difference. Like it creates significant distress for us. Whereas not so much for others. And that's what's important. And why I like hearing people say like, "Oh, we're just all a little autistic," is extremely invalidating.
yeah, that's hurtful, especially for people who are like coming to that recognition of like, I've been diagnosed, this is giving me answers, and now you're making my experience feel invalid because
Mhm.
this is all I've ever known and I've always
Yeah.
gotten in trouble for it.
Yeah, I've also yeah. Also, this is all I've ever known. I've always gotten in trouble for it. For you to just be like, "Oh, we're just all a little autistic," and kind of like brush it off is like, no, like I have had severe like now I have these internalized part of that internal dialogue, these internalized messages and thoughts and feelings about myself from this that are not positive. Yeah. They're not
Coming back,
happy.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
full circle because then you like that idea of masking too.
Mhm. They're not they don't feel good to have, like and, like, you know, finding out that you are autistic is a huge identity rocker because before you were just like, "Well, I don't know, I guess I was just anxious or just depressed," or, like, I could just tell I was a little off, but it wasn't anything like, "It's just normal," because other people also struggle with this. Like, just because other people struggle also doesn't mean that, like, we should invalidate and minimize that struggle.
Yeah.
But we gotta wrap up here because we're at over an hour, and I'm sure we could keep going. We could probably talk
We
about
probably
this for
could.
hours and hours and
Yes.
hours, but um, that is our brief, truly brief overview of neurodivergence and what it means to be neurodivergent and how society and our culture, different cultures, um, influence and affect how we show up in this world. And I think next week, since Mackenzie is still going to be out for a couple weeks, shout out to Mackenzie. We love you.
Oh, miss you.
And we
Hope you're
miss
feeling
you.
well.
Yes, I hope your jaw heals so fast. She had to have jaw surgery, everybody. This past week. So Justine will be joining me for a couple more episodes, and honestly, we'll probably have you coming in and just talking about like mental health and interviewing with that too. But I think next week we're going to talk about art therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about art therapy, and like it's probably going to build a little bit off of what we just talked about today because art therapy is really great for the neurodiverse population. Um, and we'll talk about why and like what is art therapy. A lot of people don't know, and where did it come from, and what is it now, and how it can be applied and help a lot of people. So
Right.
yeah,
I'm
and
excited
we
for
are
that.
yeah, I'm excited too. We are, as you know, I'm an art therapist, and so is Justine, and we love art therapy. So, alrighty, well, we will plan for that to be the next episode. Thank you all for joining us today. I've been Christine Thorp,
And I'm Justine Marroquin.
and we will see you all in 2 weeks. Take care.